Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What I wanted to share with you in a few minutes, inshallah ta'ala, was something related to steps to victory. What are the steps that the young Muslim, the believers, are supposed to do in order to move forward in this victory that Allah Azza wa Jal promised us? And of course, considering the global events that we are all witnessing and seeing with our own eyes, the young Muslim, the true believer, committed believer, is hurt. He is hurt from the inside and he is frustrated and he doesn't know what to do. Some have wild plans in their minds, some don't want to do anything, some other just over the entire thing. So is there any guidance in the Quran, in the word of Allah Azza wa Jal, that guides us out of this despair and hopelessness that has settled in most of us? Most definitely there has to be something in the word of Allah Azza wa Jal that guides us out of this, and actually a road that at the end of it is victory Bi-Idhnillah ta'ala. And I'll share with you a couple of steps according to my time and what I have, and I want to do so through the story of Talut and Jalut. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Talut and Jalut, but Bi-Idhnillah, by the end you'll get an ID. The story of Talut and Jalut comes towards the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. And believe it or not, if it's a story mentioned in the Quran, that means the first people that were motivated and inspired by it would be Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam and the companions. Can you imagine? And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam listening and benefiting so much from this story, and the Sahaba benefiting so much from this story, that this story would be a reason for their victory and their defeat against the enemy. Incredible stuff. If it was enough for them, it is way more enough for us. So we'll begin with this story. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الْمَلَإِ مِنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ مِنْ بَعْدِ مُوسَى إِذْ قَالُوا لِنَبِيٍّ لَهُمْ إِبْعَثْ لَنَا مَلِكًا نُقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, did you receive the story? Did you receive the information and pay attention to the mala', to the chiefs and the elite of Bani Israel, when they walked up to a prophet of theirs and they said to this prophet, can you appoint for us a king, because we want to do al-jihad fi sabilillah against the enemy that has occupied our land. That's a story, brothers and sisters, and it is in the Quran. Just before this, so you can understand where all this is happening, Musa alayhi salam and Bani Israel are finally saved from Fir'aun and his army. So Fir'aun and the army, they drown, and Bani Israel and Musa alayhi salam have made it to the other side. When they made it to the other side, they began to walk until Allah Azza wa Jal's commandment came down upon Musa alayhi salam, commanding him to enter al-Ardul Muqaddasa, the holy land, the blessed land of Jerusalem. It was a clear instruction. Musa alayhi salam said to the people, look, it's very easy. Allah is telling us enter. If we enter, we're going to defeat whoever was in there, which were al-Jabbareen. A tyrannical mob was inside. Or we just got to enter the gates and we'll take it. So Bani Israel, they said to the Prophet Musa alayhi salam, لَن نَدْخُلَهَا أَبَدًا مَدَامُ فِيهَا. We will not enter until they leave. Anyway, they said, we will not enter. They said, listen, Musa alayhi salam, you and your Lord can go and fight by yourself. We're sitting here. You know what happened as a result? Allah Azza wa Jal deprived them of the blessed land of Jerusalem for 40 years. Let me say something. Disobeying Allah's command deprived the believers from the blessed land of Jerusalem. Disobeying the command of Allah deprived them from the blessed land of Jerusalem. And one more time, the disobedience to the commandment of Allah deprived the believers from the blessed land of Jerusalem. 40 years, during that 40 years, Musa alayhi salam died, Harun alayhi salam died, and the generation that was raised within that 40 years of being lost in the desert going in circles was a pure generation raised upon the hands of Yusha ibn Nun, who was the young boy that accompanied Musa alayhi salam in his journeys and travels. They were raised upon the pure teachings of At-Tawrah. They were raised upon At-Tawheed. They were raised upon obedience, because they didn't see anyone. They didn't mix in with anyone. No fabricated ideology entered into that community. No one from outside with a weed thought or an ideology came in and spread poison and corruption among them. They were purely bred and raised upon the pure teachings of Musa alayhi salam, that was inna at-tawheed wa taqwa and obedience of Allah. So a generation like this, after 40 years, deserved victory. So under the leadership of Yusha ibn Nun, they began to fight al-Jabbarin that were sitting in the occupied land today. They began to fight them. They fought them for a couple of days until it was a Friday. When Friday came and the sun is setting, there's a problem. Because if the sun sets, we begin Saturday. And Bani Israel, in their law, it's not allowed to work or fight or any action on a Saturday. They have to sit and rest. So Yusha ibn Nun looked at the sun and he said, Anti ma'mura wa ana ma'mur. You are commanded to set and I'm commanded to continue to fight. And if this sun sets, we're in deep trouble because we got to stop the war. We're almost there. And perhaps we'll even be defeated if we stopped for one day. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, well, hadith is mentioned in Sahih Al-Bukhari, that the sun, Allah Azza wa Jal did something unique to Yusha. And this incident will never ever be repeated afterwards. Allah held the sun in its position for an hour. It did not move. And they completed and finished that war. And they declared victory against Al-Jabbarin. And they entered the blessed land of Jerusalem afterwards the sunset. Many years go by, Bani Israel are committed and strong upon the Deen and obedience, taqwa, iman, salat and whatever you need. Many years go by and their commitment upon a Deen begins to relax. It weakens. Shirk spreads among them. Innovation spread among them. A sunnah and the pure teachings begins to die and deteriorate slowly. And the way of Allah Azza wa Jal with any nation, once they lose holding their Deen, they no longer deserve victory. So Allah Azza wa Jal would send upon Bani Israel, who were the believers at the time, a tyrannical mob from Babil, which is known as Iraq today. Bukhta-Nassar, Sanharib, Al-Amaliqah. They enter and they destroy them altogether. They took their children as prisoners of war, and the men and the women were forced to flee and leave the blessed land of Jerusalem. They ended up somewhere in what is known today as Jordan. Now, in this story of Talut Jalut, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, did you not receive the news of the chiefs of Bani Israel that came to a prophet of theirs asking him that Allah appoint for them a king that would lead them back into the Holy Land, declaring al-jihad upon whoever was in there. That's where we are in the story. Now, there's a prophet. Many years go by. The prophet that they will come to, his name is Samuel alayhi salam. But I want you to pay attention. There's words here that will point to and will reflect over, and they will be the steps to victory. Pay attention now. Allah said, the chiefs of Bani Israel came to a prophet of theirs and they asked him, can you appoint a king for us so that we can fight in the way of Allah? The first step to victory is to reflect over the word al-mala, the chiefs, the elite. Usually in the Quran, al-mala are the people that are against their prophets. Al-mala, they kill the prophets. They degrade the prophets and they insult and they degrade their prophets. That's what the mala does. Allah would say, about al-mala, al-mala'u alladhina istakbaru min qawmihi, the chiefs of the nation that had rebelled. Al-mala'u alladhina kafaru, that disbelieved. But in this surah, in this passage, there's something unique about the mala. Al-mala are your rich and famous people. Al-mala of today, for example, they're the likes of Elon Musk, they're the likes of Bill Gates, they're the likes of Trump and so on. These are the mala of today. Can you understand with me that al-mala went to a prophet and said to him, appoint a king, we want to fight fi sabilillah. What does that mean? If the mala became committed upon their deen, so much so that they're not just willing to pray and fast, they've already done that. They are now willing to establish the peak of al-Islam and jihadu fi sabilillah. So what does that tell you about everyone underneath them? Because the first people that accept the message of a prophet are the poor and the weak. So if al-mala have accepted al-Islam, that means the entire community, the majority of them were steadfast, holding upon their deen. That's the first step in attaining victory. They were upholding their deen. Today, there is a wrong misunderstanding among many of the young youth. This step they want to ignore. They don't want this step. This step seems to be very difficult. How are we going to get everyone to accept Islam and get everyone committed and so on? Because you see, the idea is, if al-mala embraced and upheld a deen, what does that mean? What does it mean? It means just before this, there was a mass campaign of da'wah. Da'wah was raging in that community. The du'at, the khutaba, the mashayikh, the scholars, all of them were active. They were delivering the message in every corner until the mala heard it. Until the mala heard the message and accepted. And they become so righteous, they want the peak of Islam established among them. The problem with a lot of the youth today is that they do this. They will accuse al-mashayikh, the people of knowledge and the scholars. Look at the shaykh, he's still sitting on the chair teaching, thinking that's a road to victory. Don't you hear that? From some of us, we talk like this. Look at these shaykhs wasting their time, sitting and teaching us. وهذا العالم sitting, wasting his time talking about wiping off the socks and speaking about the periods of women. Thinking that if we ignore all these chapters in Islam, somehow Allah will give us victory. That is a misunderstanding. Correct it. The first step to victory is a mass campaign of da'wah that happens among the people, and the vast majority of people begin to uphold their deen. Obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal. Sin among them becomes very little. The rebellious and the sinners become worried and scared and run away and do their sin in private. Today, in the situation we're in, the one that does the sin, it's so public that even if a da'i wanted to speak about a sin and condemn it, he's worried. What are they going to say about me? They will cancel me. What criticism will I get? You know what? Forget it. Shuf where the level has reached. Where as a teacher, as a person that is delivering the message of Allah, I'm worried. Should I condemn this sin among them? Or just leave it, bro, just leave it so we can bring them all in. If the mashayikh and the people of knowledge have reached this state, that's an indication that there is a lot of corruption amongst us. And that needs to be resolved. We need to understand that commitment upon the deen of Allah is the first matter on the road to victory. So we need to honor these efforts, and we ourselves take what we benefit from a lecture and spread it. Spread the teachings of Allah Azza wa Jalla in every corner of the globe. Start with yourself and your family and everyone you know, until the message reaches the elite, those above us. And we do that, and that's the first step. People today think that if the evil was eliminated, then this is how we attain victory. Like just somehow the evil should eliminate itself. Somehow the evil should just pack up and go somewhere. What happens then? By Allah, I ask you, if the evil around the globe packed up and left what belongs to us, imagine that happen. What do you think is going to happen the next day? Do you think everyone's going to become righteous all of a sudden? Everyone becomes obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal? The first step is commitment upon a deen. The second thing is this. This mala, the elite, they came to a prophet of theirs and asked him to appoint for them a king so that they can fight. The second step in the road to victory is to respect the scholars and the people of knowledge among you. They respected the Prophet. They honored the Prophet. They went to him for decisions. They went to him for knowledge and advice on the global situation they were facing. Today, many of our young youth are completely opposite to that. I hear statements. People cursing the people of knowledge among them. People slandering the people of knowledge and the ulama and the scholars amongst them. People slandering and cursing them, accusing them of all sorts. And there is no victory if al-ulama among us are not respected. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Inna ma yakhsha Allah min ibadihi al-ulama. Al-ulama are those who have taqwa and piety to Allah Azza wa Jal. If they are not respected, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Man aada li waliyan faqad adhantuhu bil harb. Whoever declares war and an enmity to a wali of Allah, to a friend of Allah, like al-ulama and the people of knowledge, then Allah has declared war against them. Where's victory going to come? If war has been declared against us by Allah Azza wa Jal for not respecting and honoring our ulama. إِذْ قَالُوا لِنَبِيٍّ لَهُمْ. The scholar and the people of knowledge among the people are extremely important. They are the bedrock of society. Wallahi, they are the bedrock of society. Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, he said, حَامِلُ الْقُرْآنِ حَامِلُ رَايَةِ الْإِسْلَامِ. He said the people, the bearers of the Qur'an, those who carry the Qur'an and the knowledge, they are similar to the flag bearer on the battlefield. You know what that means? You know what that means? You know the flag bearer on the battlefield, when the Muslim commander is holding the flag, the believers are fighting. They're all comfortable because the flag's up. If the flag's up, things are good. Once there becomes disunity in the lines, chaos among the believers, you know what they do? The believers on a battlefield, they will all run towards where the flag is. They will run to the flag and they will regroup at the flag, and then they're dispersed once again. They build their strength at the flag. When Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad said that the scholar, the people of knowledge, the people of Qur'an, they are the flag bearers, meaning in society, among us, when there is filth and corruption and transgression and injustice, people are supposed to run to their scholars and their people of knowledge. They're supposed to regroup at their feet. They're supposed to take their advice and instruction from them. Afterwards they disperse. How can we attain victory if Hamilul Quran, the one who's holding this knowledge, the scholar, and the people of knowledge among us, are shamed and are disrespected and are accused of all sorts of matters? Yes, I'm not telling you every scholar and every person of knowledge is an angel. We're not saying that. And we know among the scholars and the people of knowledge there are misguided individuals that want harm and evil for you. But don't you dare fall into that camp that generalizes and puts every sheikh under the bus, and that they're all no good, and that they're all thieves, and that they're all here and we're not, and that they're taking our money, they take our time, we don't benefit. The ummah's in its position because of them and them and them. This is a community that does not respect their scholar. There is no victory for them. So we need to shape up this understanding and understand perfectly, clearly, that the second matter that is discussed, unless the believers respect the people of knowledge among them, there is no victory. إِذْ قَالُوا لِنَبِيٍّ لَهُمْ. Then they said to him, إِبْعَثْ لَنَا مَلِكًا نُقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Appoint for us a king so that we can fight in the cause of Allah. Meaning, the third step in the road to victory for the believers to understand what unity is. Appoint for us one king. We want to unite under him and then establish the fighting fi sabilillah. Because if the matter is left for each and every single one of us to decide whatever you like, we have over 1 million IDs. Every single person will have his own ID, his own plan, his own agenda. You get to nothing. The believers must unite just like the disbelievers unite. Once they unite, their attack is solid. When the believers unite under the leadership of one man that will lead them into that situation and that path, that would be a step towards victory. And why appoint for us a king? Because they realize and they recognize fighting fi sabilillah is not allowed without permission. The offensive fighting, it is not allowed without permission. So appoint for us a king who will give us permission to do so. And this is a step. Many of the youth have it wrong in their mind, thinking I can do what I want whenever I want. And if you were to look at Sirat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you'll find the individuals in that Sirah would walk up to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, give me permission that I do such and such. Give us permission. A man would come, he says, Ya Rasulullah, I want to go with you fil jihadi fi sabilillah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says to him, are your parents alive? He says, yes. He goes back. Go back and fight for their cause. And this man is deprived of al-jihad fi sabilillah. He doesn't complain, he goes. Because this requires permission. No permission, no going. You may think it's a noble cause for yourself, but it will not be. إِبْعَثْ لَنَا مَلِكًا. هذا القرآن, this is what Allah is teaching us. نُقَاتِلْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. The fourth matter, فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. For the cause of Allah, إِذَن sincerity. There must be sincerity. That's the fourth matter on the road towards victory. Sincerity. For Allah Azza wa Jal's sake. We're not interested in the appreciation or in the acceptance of others. Allah Azza wa Jal, then He says, هَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْقِتَالُ أَلَّا تُقَاتِلُوا. The Prophet says to them, are you people sure? Perhaps if I did request this from Allah, that He appoint a king for you, and you're on your way to the Holy Land, perhaps if I do that, you people may back up. You people may back out and run away. He sensed that his community is full of talk. He sensed it. So he asked them this. They said, لَنَا وَمَا لَنَا أَلَّا نُقَاتِلَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَقَدْ أُخْرِجْنَا مِنْ دِيَارِنَا وَأَبْنَائِنَا. They said to him, no, how can we back out? That's our land. Our children have been taken. Of course, alongside fi sabilillah, we've got a lot to fight for. It's our land, it's our people. We've got every reason to go. Yalla bismillah, let's do it. Okay. فَلَمَّا كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقِتَالِ. The Prophet comes back to them and says to them, indeed Allah is just about to appoint a king for you, and this matter that you wanted has been legislated. You know what happened? تَوَلَّوْا إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِّنْهُمْ. All of them ran away, except a few. The community was all talk. When the real time came, the community was all talk. And from now on, Allah Azza wa Jal will begin to filter out until He gets the pure 314 believers that will stand against Jalut and eventually destroy him. And I'm going to end with one final point, since my time is coming up. Afterwards, of course, Talut was appointed as a king. Some ulama mentioned they were 800,000 at the beginning. When they turned away, they ended up 8,000. Then some of them did not agree for Talut to be a king. So they said, we didn't accept his leadership. We didn't accept his leadership. The Prophet tried to convince them that this is what Allah chose for you, you got to take it. They didn't accept it because he wasn't a person of money and fame. They don't want him. So from the 8,000, it was also reduced to 800. Final 800, they move on with Talut, and they're about to enter the Holy Lands. So as they're going, Talut, the king, stops them. This is just a step before victory. And he gathers them all. He says to them, listen. He says to them, فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ بِالْجُنُودِ قَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مُبْتَلِيكُم بِنَهَرٍ. He said to them, listen, Allah is going to test us with a river now. As we're on our way, 800 of us, towards Baytul Maqdis, and we have achieved all the steps to victory, we're just moments away. Allah Azza wa Jal has now decreed that He's going to test us all. What is He going to test us with? A river. A river is going to come on the way. And you know, when you've been traveling for so long and you see a river, beautiful water, pure spring water, cold, and the throat is dry, and the person is hungry and thirsty, what do? You rush to this water and you begin to drink and drink. Ya akhi, bismillah, laqbada Allah later, bismillah, inshallah, we first drink. Big fitna the water becomes in Ramadan, right? That's what's happening now. This river is going to be a huge fitna. Watch this. Inna Allah mubtalikum binahar. Then He gave him the conditions. He said, listen, whoever drinks from it will not qualify to be with me. He's going to go back. Such a person will not qualify. And if you cannot hold yourself and resist this desire and urge to drink, then Allah has given you permission to drink one handful only. That's it. So they walk, they get to the water. What happens? فَشَرِبُوا مِنْهُ. All of them drank. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِنْهُم. Except a few. And this few, Al-Bara' ibn Azib radiyallahu anhu in Sahih Al-Bukhari, he mentions that they were the same number as the believers with the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Battle of Badr, 314. We went from 800,000 to 314 pure believers. We don't need to change all of us, we need to change some of us in order to attain this victory. Listen to what happens. But even those who did not drink, or those that made it to 314, are two groups. Believe it or not, some drank one handful and the others didn't drink anything. They were able to hold themselves at a moment of desire. Why was this test there? Because if you can't hold yourself from a bit of water that is in front of you, how are you going to face Jalut? If we can't control our desire from the temptations of this worldly life, what victory are you dreaming of? Huh? What victory are we dreaming of? This is why, and I give you this misconception among a lot of the youth. You know, when we share the quote of Ibn al-Qayyim, and we say that Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, Jihad al-Nafs is more important than Jihad al-Adu. He said that the Jihad of the Nafs is more important than the Jihad of the enemy. What does the young boy say? Sell out. Sell out. Look at us, teaching us that Jihad al-Nafs and the Jihad of the Adu. Brother, we want to fight the Jihad of the brother, the Adu. We want to fight the enemy. What is he talking about, Jihad al-Nafs? They didn't understand where this concept comes from. This is where it came from. It came from this ayah. If you couldn't control and resist just a little bit of water in front of you, how are you prepared to give your life? So a believer must not fool himself. And you know what happens? Subhanallah. Those who drank more than one handful, Ibn Abbas rahimahullah said, their thirst was not quenched. They remained thirsty. Those that drank one handful, they were quenched. They did not feel thirsty afterwards. You know why? Because al-haram does not satisfy. Allah. Wal-halal, a little bit of it is enough. And if you look at the situation of people that do haram, are they ever satisfied and happy? Wallahi, they are not. Look at the people that sit in the bars and in the pubs. There's 10 cups of alcohol in front of him and he's still thirsty. Huh? There's not one cup. There's 10 cups in front of them. They bring it in the barrels, they bring it. Not in little barrels, they bring it. Why? Because al-haram doesn't satisfy. It will not satisfy. It won't fill you. Look at the one who commits a zina. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to save us. You think a person tries a zina once and never again? That would be someone blessed by Allah Azza wa Jal and perhaps he makes a tawbah. But the vast majority, what do they call it? They call it the body count. How much body count? Hada zina. That's al-haram is all about that. You do not become satisfied from al-haram. The one who makes money in haram, wallah, he'll be sitting on millions and he's still not content. Meanwhile, look at the one who, like they brought us a bottle of water. Like just a little bit from the top was enough. Al-halal satisfies. The one who's earning a halal income, alhamdulillah, he's satisfied. This is the reality. The one who marries one, if one is not enough, up to 4 is enough. And you'll be satisfied. You won't look for more. You understand? Yani what all this is about is that if you cannot control your desire from al-haram, no victory is on the road. No victory is on the road. Halt, restrain yourself, especially when it comes to al-haram. And with al-mubah, the permissible, take as much as you need from it for your dunya. And don't forget Allah, don't forget your responsibilities, don't forget your obligations. Afterwards, 314 people were able to enter al-masjid. Dawood alayhi salam was among them. He killed Jalut, and Allah Azza wa Jal made him a prophet, and He gave him kingdom, and the believers took Masjid al-Aqsa, the holy land of Jerusalem, for many years after that. That's something brief, a few points that I had, and I was able to share with you in a few minutes. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us goodness and acceptance. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.